You think evolution is a thing that happened to your great-great-something grandparents. It isn't. It's happening to you. Right now, while you sit here, your DNA is being quietly edited by pressures you have probably never thought about. And the changes are visible, measurable, and picking up speed. Most of us picture evolution as that slow grind that takes millions of years. Dinosaurs turning into birds, fish dragging themselves onto land, distant, ancient. Nothing to do with your Tuesday afternoon. Honestly, that picture is 2 centuries out of date. Geneticists in the past 20 years have pulled up something that should genuinely make you sit up. Our species is changing faster right now than it has at almost any point in recorded history. And almost nobody outside the labs is paying attention. Take the example so obvious that, looking back, it's almost embarrassing it took us this long to notice. Milk. The ability to drink it as an adult. 10,000 years ago, basically no grown human on Earth could put down a glass of milk without spending the next hour regretting it. The enzyme that breaks down lactose, lactase, switched off after childhood in pretty much everyone. That was the default. That was the standard human body. Then we domesticated cattle. Agriculture kicked in. And suddenly, the rare people carrying a mutation that kept lactase running into adulthood had a quiet but massive edge. More calories, more fat, better odds in a bad winter. Within a few thousand years, that mutation tore through European and East African populations. Today, somewhere around 35% of humans are lactase persistent. A trait that didn't exist in meaningful numbers 400 generations ago is now everywhere. 400 generations. On the evolutionary clock, that's basically last Thursday. That's not ancient history. That's your gut. That might be your genome right now, carrying a record of what your ancestors ate and survived on. It doesn't stop there. Here's where it gets actually strange. Researchers have been crawling through enormous genomic databases, millions of people, looking for fingerprints of recent selection, signs that certain gene variants are spreading faster than chance can explain. They're finding them in places you wouldn't expect. Genes tied to heart disease, genes tied to the timing of puberty, genes linked to body mass, blood pressure, even years of schooling. These shifts aren't ancient. Some show clear pressure within the last few centuries, a few within the last few decades. Iceland turned out to be a particularly clean lens on this. The country keeps genealogical records going back more than 1,000 years. When scientists laid those records on top of modern genomic data, they found something jarring. People carrying certain gene variants tied to slightly earlier reproductive timing, or to slightly lower years of education, are having more children, and having them a little sooner. Those variants are spreading, not because they make anyone healthier in some obvious storybook way, but because, in our current environment, they nudge reproductive timing in a direction that produces more kids who survive. Natural selection doesn't care about your GPA, it counts babies. Before your brain races off somewhere uncomfortable, I can tell where it just went. This is not about intelligence. It's not about any group being better or worse than any other. Evolution isn't a ladder. It isn't a staircase climbing towards some shining ideal. It's a response to environment. And right now, the environment we're swimming in is genuinely weird by any historical standard. The pressures shaping us are unlike anything our species has lived through before. Look at what's changed. Antibiotics, vaccines, anesthesia. For nearly the entire arc of human history, infectious disease was the #1 killer. Plague, smallpox, cholera. These were merciless filters. If your immune system had a specific weakness, you died before you had children. The variants that helped you survive an epidemic spread. The ones that didn't quietly went away. We have now mostly pulled that filter off the world, which sounds great, and largely is. But it also means the selection pressure from infectious disease has gone quiet. In a real sense, the very forces that have shaped us for tens of thousands of years have loosened their grip. What replaces them? We don't fully know yet. Some of the new pressures we can see. Heart disease is now a leading killer, and the genes that predispose you to it sit under a kind of pressure they never carried back when almost nobody lived past 50. Late onset conditions, diseases that only show up after your reproductive years, live in a strange evolutionary gray zone. They can spread freely, because selection can't see them until after you've already passed your genes along. Then there's the part that's hard to talk about cleanly. Modern medicine is allowing people to live and have children who, in a colder, harsher world, would not have. People with type 1 diabetes, people with severe allergies, people with conditions that would have been fatal a century ago. This isn't an argument that they shouldn't. Of course they should. That's what medicine exists for. That's why we built it. But it does mean the gene pool is shifting in ways it never has before. We have partially uncoupled survival from genetics, and no one really knows what that does to a species across the next 1,000 years. Here's another one almost nobody mentions. Your skeleton is changing. Wisdom teeth, the third molars, are quietly disappearing from the human population. A growing share of people are born without them at all. Our jaws are shortening. Our faces are flattening. Teeth that were essential when we chewed raw tubers and unprocessed meat are becoming vestigial. Nobody decided this. The developmental pathways that produce wisdom teeth are simply, more and more often, not getting switched on. Soft food, cooking, agriculture. The environment changed first, and the body is slowly, generation by generation, catching up. The coccyx is doing the same thing, the leftover of a tail. It's shortening across populations. Not dramatically, not within one lifetime, but measurably over generations. We are, very literally, losing our tails. In real time, there's one more. In several East Asian populations, a single mutation has spread astonishingly fast that affects breast tissue, sweat glands, and earwax type. All at once, one mutation, multiple effects. It seems to have rolled through those populations within roughly the last 10 to 30,000 years, which on this timescale counts as recent. Probably because one of those effects gave its carriers a slight survival or reproductive bump. Scientists still argue about which one, but the fact that a single mutation can rewrite several physical traits at the same time tells you something important about how evolution actually plays out. It isn't tidy. It isn't deliberate. It's messy, opportunistic, and full of surprises that nobody designed, which lands us at something stranger still. For the first time in the history of life on this planet, we are reaching the point where a species can begin to steer its own evolution. CRISPR's gene editing is real and getting better every year. Heritable gene editing, changes that would pass down through generations, has already happened in humans controversially. The first gene-edited babies were born in China in 2018. The scientific community was, broadly, appalled, mostly because it was premature, sloppy, and reckless. But the capability is on the table now. It will improve. At some point, the question of whether and how to use it will stop being a science fiction plot and start being an actual policy fight. What do you do with that? If you could permanently take a hereditary disease out of your family line, would you? If you could give your child a heart that's a fraction more resilient, would you? Where exactly does the line sit? Once the technology is safe enough that the danger isn't the obvious objection anymore. These aren't hypotheticals for our grandchildren. These are conversations people are going to have, in earnest, within the next 20 to 30 years. Here's what I'd like you to walk away with. Evolution is not something that happened to us. It is something happening to us, in our bodies, in our genomes, in our children, in our children's children. We are not the finished product. We are the middle of an unfinished sentence. Every generation is a quiet experiment. Every surviving lineage is one data point inside an equation no one ever designed. And now, for the first time, the organism running the experiment has become aware of the experiment and is starting to wonder whether to pick up the pen. That is a genuinely new thing in the 4 billion year history of life on Earth. Whether you find that terrifying or extraordinary probably says more about you than it does about the science. If this kind of thing lights something up in your head, the place where biology, deep time, and what it actually means to be human all overlap, subscribe. This channel lives in that exact spot. Science that drifts into philosophy. Philosophy that turns out to be science. And in the comments, tell me this. If you could edit one thing about human biology, one trait, one tendency, one design flaw, what would you go for? I read every single answer. See you in the next one.